What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Strikeout Bros, episode 14. What's good, Lash? How you doing?
Good, man. We're halfway, almost there, man. 2 weeks is the All Star break. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. This season went by so fast. I don't even know. It's a blink of an eye. And oh man, the woes. Of
The
course, I don't
ups
even.
and downs.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't even think we're gonna be able to go back up. At this point, I'm scared, but it's okay. That's the season. That's how it
Well, the
works.
difference between you and the Orioles is that you've built a nice cushion. And you only, you're still right in the tight race with Philly. So it's not the end of the world. But for
Yeah,
Baltimore, it is the end of the world because they put themselves in the big hole, being 11 under. That the first step is to get to 500. Second step is to get to uh at least 2 or 3 games out of the last wild card spot by the trade deadline, which is the end of the month. That's not gonna happen. So it sucks, but hey, it's what it is. Every season
I,
is unpredictable.
it really is. I mean, but it's okay though, because like we said, it's going by so fast that you have plenty of time to figure it out. You can probably pick up a couple of pieces, get rid of a couple of pieces, and try to set yourself up for next year. Now, this is the type of situation where we're talking about this. Really, it's late in the season, but you never know what can happen. This is something that you always say every week. And listen, I'm starting to become a firm believer in that. I've seen a lot of teams like kind of like turn over this past week, like Pittsburgh. They went on a 6 game winning streak. I
Yeah, I
believe they
saw that.
lost today. That was pretty crazy. I mean, I know for a fact because they swept the Mets. Not that the Mets were
Yeah,
anything to, worry about at that point, but still though, winning and they scored a lot of runs in those games too. But we're gonna get back to that. We're gonna talk about, the main topic today is we have to introduce this guy to the world. If you guys don't know him already, his name is Cal Raleigh. He's a
catcher
catcher
from
for the Seattle, yeah, for Seattle, and he's pretty amazing. He's doing things that we haven't seen in a long time. And he's bats from both sides, which is crazy already, right? I can't remember any other catcher that comes to mind right now. Do you that can actually bat from both sides and be productive?
the productive part, yes, but switch hitting catcher, not too many. And
Not that
also,
I
he's
can
really
think of.
good behind the plate
Yes, he
defensively.
is defensively. He's pretty nice, but the topic around town right now is the fact that he's like leader in like RBIs. He's up there, and 33 home runs. That's crazy. Batting 268. Like he's on pace. He's on pace to hit at least 50 something, 57 home runs, right? Let's see. And 40 home runs for a catcher is almost like, unheard of. I'll give you some names, which is pretty crazy. Johnny Bench, I remember him growing up. Cincinnati Reds. He hit 40 1 year, you know.
Piazza,
Piazza hit twice. He did it twice. He did it in
yep.
97
See,
and hit 99. So, you know what? At the end of
what
the
about
day,
Yadier Molina?
he's not up there, believe it or not, right?
I just think of some great catchers.
No, yeah.
Piazza
Mike
hit the Molina.
Piazza, he did it with the Dodgers, which is crazy, right? And then he came over, he did it with the Mets as well 2 years later.
Dodgers is first.
He did it with the Dodgers first, which is
Remember,
crazy.
he went to LA after his tenure with the Mets.
No, no, no. He came from the Dodgers.
No, I know, but then near the end of his career, he went back to LA, like in the back half of his career. When
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was
Well,
washed up.
yeah, that makes sense. To retire there, like that kind of
Yeah,
deal. The same thing
yeah,
that McCutcheon did. You see how McCutcheon is like he's a starter for Pittsburgh, which is
yeah.
crazy. They
Well,
really aged
the
out, but
team.
that
Yeah.
team is,
What about Jason Varitek? He was another catcher I could think of, or
yo,
Posada,
yeah, I remember. Nah, ththese guys they never hit 40, which is
as far
crazy.
as home runs.
Javi Lopez, Atlanta Braves, 2003. He hit
Oh, forgot
43
about
that
him. He
year.
was good.
43. Todd
Uh,
Hundley, another
Todd
Met
Hundley.
in
Yep.
'96. All right, he hit 41. Hundley was a big guy. He was kind of like Piazza. Piazza was a big guy too. And Salvador Perez, Kansas City Royals,
Oh yes.
2021, 48 home runs. Okay, it's just crazy.
I'm still shocked that Yadier Molina is not on there. Just because he played for such a long time, and he always had good
Yeah.
numbers in the
And he
regular
was a
season.
great catcher. I would love to have him, in his
What
prime,
about
of
Pudge
course.
Rodriguez?
No, another one.
Wow,
No, I know it's crazy. I'm
you
telling
know
you.
what I'm
That's
talking
why.
about.
Yeah, of course
Yeah.
I do. You know,
Wow,
of
that's
course.
crazy. Anyway,
You see a lot of great catches, but you see how hard it is for those catches. I mean, that's one of the hardest positions to play, though. You have to remember that. Like back in the day, when baseball was,
the
something to really
dinosaur
look at.
days.
Exactly. That's when the catcher, he was in charge of pretty much everything. What was going over the plate, Not
He's.
anymore.
I always say the catcher is the quarterback in baseball
Definitely. 100%.
because to be a catcher, you gotta be able to catch all different types of pitchers, throws. Because everyone says like, how many pitches you gotta catch? It's only fastball, curveball, splitter, slider. Everyone has those pitches. Yes, everyone has those standard pitches, knuckleball, but it's the way if the motion of the way the pitcher throws it is what can deceive a catcher if he doesn't know how to catch it, and that's what makes a catcher great.
Yeah. And
Because every
tough.
pitcher is different. You
It's
know,
a tough job. Think about it. You have to learn how to catch everybody in there. So not only the starting rotation, you have to be able to catch the bullpen as well. Because
and
everybody has their quirks and everybody has their thing. You have to be able to be set up for that pitch. It's kind of crazy. That's how hard that position is. I'm surprised that we don't have a lot more $300 million catchers out there.
And it's harder now because back in the '90s and the early 2000s, guys didn't have they don't throw with gas. It was more controllability. So you
Yeah,
just had to know idea where to control the ball. Now you got to worry about controllability and the speed because if a guy's throwing 100 miles per hour, think about it, that's 100 miles per hour coming to your glove, the palm of your hand, and to be able to snatch that ball quickly. Because if you don't and you drop it, it's like a third strike. The ball could get loose or it gets ricochets off your glove, goes
yeah, and
somewhere.
as runners in score
So
position, it's a problem.
yeah, so it's a challenge. So
It
I
is
tip my hat off to him because and Cal Raleigh has been one of their best players in he's probably been their most consistent player in Seattle.
definitely.
So they need that. They have a good pitching rotation.
And
They
guess
just don't
what?
have superstar bats.
Yeah, we're
Oh,
gonna
then
we're
Julio
gonna
Rodriguez. That's just about it.
Yeah, I mean they have stuff. They need to build on it. They have a couple of pieces that they can work with. Let's see what happens. But Cal, he's gonna be in the home run derby this year, which is kind of crazy. July 14th. So, and I think his dad is gonna pitch to him, so it's gonna be
That's
interesting.
cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Let's see what he does. And you know what's funny? Speaking of the home run derby, Mr. Alonso is not gonna be there this year, which I
Yeah,
like. Which
which
I
makes
like.
sense. You
Yes, you
can't.
know what?
He's done it.
Eh,
What's there to achieve? You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, he's done it. He's won it. But you know what? I like that because you know how they say that the derby messes with your mechanics.
It does.
So
It does.
it's been said multiple times by many different people. So I'm gonna have to
Yes.
say that I'm happy to hear that. To be honest with you.
Yeah. No. I always say the derby's the baseball curse of what Madden cover is to football. You know what I mean?
Mm,
You
that's
ever notice
interesting
that
that you say that. Yeah,
every
yeah, yeah. As they
yeah,
say,
that's
it's true. It
the
happens.
analogy.
It
But the
happens.
difference is the Madden cover is not a physical curse where the
The
hitting the home run
derby.
derby is because think about it. These guys are hitting about whoever wins. There's a good chance you could hit 60 plus home runs in one day. You know how hard that is. Just swing, 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 swing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
It
know,
fucks with it. It fucks with the
and
mechanics. It
it
does.
messes up your mechanics. Your arm gets sore. I don't know about you, but I've gone to batting cage a couple of times, and I'll be sore. I'm
Same
like,
here.
oh, that hurts. Even
Yeah.
now,
Listen.
granted, I don't do it every day, so I'm gonna be sore. It's like lifting weights, but to do it in that, and you remember they got to do that in a short amount of time. You know, so what is it? 2 minute rounds? I don't know how many rounds it is. I
Yeah,
mean,
they
time
switch up
wise,
the rules all the time. I'm not even sure. I can't
I don't
remember
know.
last year's rules because
Let's
they
just say
switched
it's
it up
like
a little
five
bit.
minutes around, right? So if you make it to the third round, the fourth
Something
round, I think it's
crazy.
like 3 rounds. The finals is 3 rounds. That's 5 minutes for stringing constantly straight. Yeah, you're gonna be burned. You're gonna. So to me,
Yeah, you're gonna bring yourself
and if
out.
yeah, and if you're see, in my opinion, I think teams who are not in contention, they should be allowed to contend. If your team is in contention for the playoffs, your star player should not be allowed. If it's a guy that's not a main star on your team, fine, let him go. If it's like I don't know if it's Beatty and he wants to do the home run derby, yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
go
who
to town
cares?
and do it.
Yeah, go to town, do it.
But if it's one of your star players, if it's Alonso, Soto, Lindor, Alvarez, whoever, don't let those guys. participate, even if they want to, because you need them in the long run.
Yeah, I feel you. I totally agree with you. I always think that the player comes back second half and they're struggling. They can't figure it out. They the mechanics are all fucked up. It's not a good look for them. So he'll be the eighth guy. Cal, he's gonna be in the home run derbies. He'll be the eighth Seattle Mariner to compete in this derby. And there's a lot of big names in this. Out of
Griffey, Tino
there. Yep,
Martinez,
yeah. No, check it out. So
Julio
we got
Rodriguez,
Ken Griffin. Yep, Julio Rodriguez. That's two. Edgar
Alex
Martinez,
Rodriguez,
Alex Rodriguez. You got that. Brett Boone, Robinson Cano.
Brett Boone.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I know it's
Robinson
crazy,
Cano,
right?
I forgot about him. That
Yeah,
guy,
yeah.
the
What a
biggest thief I've ever met in baseball.
well, there's a lot of them out there, but he's definitely a top five for sure. Top five,
You know what we
and
should do one day on the show? Do a top five worst baseball contracts and put
wow,
them.
yeah,
I'll
we can
come
do that
up with a
next week.
list.
Yeah, come up
Yeah,
with the list and we'll talk about it. We'll see
yeah.
how many teams
I already have
have
one
been
in mind. You're
robbed.
not. I already have one in mind. You're not gonna like it. It's two of
Of
them, and
course,
both of them are
well,
Mets.
well, of course.
Cespedes and Jason Bay
Wow, wow, Cespedes, wow.
digging
But
up a
anyway,
hole.
listen. Last time any Seattle Mariner won the Derby was in, what Griffey did it a couple of times. He won it in 94, 98, 99, 93. And remember when he was competing in in that season, home run contest between McGuire and
Sosa.
Sosa? And it's
Yes.
funny how he was the true, you know, natural at hitting homers because nobody ever mentioned Griffey and a scandal like that. But McGuire and
Yeah.
Sosa were both involved in that, which is funny. And look at that! Look how many times he won the Derby. It shows you that he was the truth.
Yeah.
But so now we're gonna get to the nitty gritty of the show. This is the part that I'm not gonna
The
like so
not so
much.
fun
Exactly. See, you understand exactly what I'm talking about, bro? Because
because none
it's
of our
not.
teams have been fun at all lately. Uh,
Nah,
the
it's not
last
fun to
few.
watch. It's been really hard for me to watch baseball lately. I have to keep tabs on what's going on because of the show, obviously. But I'll give you a perfect example. Today, I was at work. I couldn't really watch because the series for some reason it's all during the daytime. I don't know if they're trying to control the traffic between the Mets and the Yankees. They want to keep everybody under the lights. I don't know. I don't know. It's just weird. I don't know why they did it like that because these games are great at night. You know what I'm saying? The battles, the borough. I don't know. This is weird, but I'm glad we won. Listen, it
No,
was a
it
battle.
makes sense. I kind of liked it because I know why they did it. Most people have the holiday off, right? So they figured they
I
could get
got you.
more a larger contingent of crowd. If it was a regular Friday night and we had to work, well, you and I both work, but you know what I mean. If it was like a non-holiday, you're not gonna get a lot of people. But because it's a non-holiday, because it's a holiday, they figured a lot more people, and they had to sell out
Yeah.
crowd, I think, right?
Of
So,
course, for that
so it made
event, listen,
sense.
more Yankee fans than Met fans always for that type of event. They'll sell out the house, and
But
the standing
still,
room
I
only.
could see why.
Yeah, but today's July 4th, right? You would expect them to blast off some fireworks. It's funny because I was at the stadium last night and they did it last night.
Oh, really? They're
That's
doing it tonight in
yeah,
Atlanta.
yeah, that makes sense. Because it's July 4th. I mean, if you're committed to coming to the game, why not enjoy the fireworks at the game? And it's not like they're bullshit fireworks either. It's pretty. It's a nice show. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, it's not the
I
county
enjoyed it.
fair. The county, what is it called? The county fair fireworks. I call them.
Nah,
They
nah.
give you,
It's a serious show. The music, it's all in sync. It's pretty nice.
yeah,
It's
or like
pretty
the ones
cool.
they give you after. You know how the ones they give you after the game wins. Like I know in Atlanta they do this in New York too. When the Mets win, they shoot off fireworks. Like four or
Oh
five,
yeah,
and they
yeah.
call it a
I
day.
mean, that's an Atlanta tradition. I don't remember
Oh, they
seeing
don't do that
that.
in New York.
Well, now they do it sometimes they try to get too flashy for me. Like listen, I
Atlanta
don't
does it
like
when they
that.
hit a home run
A home run, yes, I know,
or
but
at the end
they
if they
don't.
win.
Yeah,
But
see
yeah,
that we don't do that. That's a little bit too much for me. I think it's a little bit overdone sometimes. Like we have the smoke when the game starts and everybody's coming out of the dugout. That's a little bit overdone too. I don't like that too much.
and you
I
got the
like
apple that comes
yeah, we
up
have the
when the
apple,
Mets win.
but the apple's a tradition. I love the apple. I'm not gonna say anything about the apple. That's us. That's
No,
us.
I
Our
like
thing.
it too. It's great.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I like it. You know, it's a little cheesy for some people, right? But whatever, man. That's my team. I like the Apple. The Apple doesn't bother me. And the theatrics too, like when they pull an opposing pitcher, they go through the theatrics, the lights, you know, and the show. It's pretty cool. I like that too, you know. But listen, man, we just won our first series since May 23rd through the 25th against the Dodgers, bro. That's how long it's been. It's been 3 weeks since we've won a series, bro. That's how bad it's been to be a Met fan. You know what I'm saying? How crazy is that? I don't know what happened.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think I don't know if in my opinion it sounds like the starting pitching is running out of gas because some of them are getting hurt now. And
Yeah, okay.
that's what's besides Alonso, and because the thing what made the Mets great in the first 2 months was that both their pitching and all phases of their pitching and Peter Alonso and a couple other guys were like
The main
carrying the
three, the
team.
main three.
Those are three main guys.
Yeah, oh, Soto and Lindor and Alonso, right? Those guys are
All those,
hitting, then we're gonna be
yeah,
okay because everybody else is in a. It's a contagious thing. You know how it is. You start hitting,
yeah.
I start hitting, everybody starts hitting.
You
When
feed off each
those
other.
three, yeah, but when those three ain't hitting, the shit hits the fan really fast. And now, no pitching, no offense. How are we supposed to win games, man? We can't even score. Listen, I believe we were batting 217 with runners in scoring position. Like, what are you talking about? What's going on? We paid all this money for this team. Excuse not me, Mr. Cohen. I'm sorry. You know, but Mr. Cohen, listen, he finally got to the paper. He was like, you know, ebbs and flows, but this is ridiculous. This is not something now. Stearns has a serious problem on his hands. You know, now he has to try to figure out what he's gonna do. We're at the time of the season where you know you make decisions like this, but we didn't think it was gonna be that hard. And at first, you know, when we were winning, I figured, hey, we're not gonna have to do too much. Maybe get rid of Tyrone Taylor, who is 1 for 23. Okay, and his last 23 at bats, he's produced one hit. Yeah, I understand he's Superman back there and he's catching balls left and right. My dad and I, we disagree because my dad's like, you know, listen, I understand he's not hitting, but you know, with that defensive, you know, machine back there, he's pretty crazy with it. You know, I'm not gonna lie, but if you're not hitting, you can't play on this team.
Yeah, no, it's I forgot what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's just the thing with the Mets. They need the other guys to help out. You need the bottom of the lineup to produce, and that's not happening.
Yeah, when you
You know,
have an
you
automatic out in Taylor, that's not gonna happen.
Taylor, what's his name? Taylor Beatty's automatic out in my opinion.
I mean,
McNeil,
he's streaky. He had a home run today.
he's
Listen,
streaky. I know, but he's streaky. McNeil's streaky. Nemo's consistent, but can be streaky at times.
I
He's more
mean,
consistent than
he's more
streaky, but
consistent than all. You know, listen, I like. I don't have any complaints about Nemo.
no.
He goes out there every day. He plays hard every day, and he's been hitting a lot of home runs lately, and he's been doing something that you know everybody else can't pull off right now. You know, so he's been doing his thing. He's electric right now, and I look forward to seeing him. You know, continue to do his thing. He's one of the most consistent Mets I've ever seen. You know, since I've been a fan.
Yeah,
Everyday
I
player. You know, everyday player.
yeah, but you
If
just the
anyone,
yeah.
go ahead. I'm sorry. If
No,
anyone should be
I'm
the
just saying the
captain, it should
bottom
be
of the
Nemo.
lineup.
Yeah,
Oh,
the bottom of the
definitely.
lineup, you know,
If
Nemo's
Lindo
the
wasn't
captain.
there,
No,
if
I don't
Lindo
care. I
wasn't
don't
there,
care. Nemo's the
he
captain
should
in
be
my
the
eyes.
yeah, because
He,
he's a true definition of a captain. Someone comes, works hard, puts his head down, brings his lunch pail, and doesn't complain and just
exactly. And
performs. And
isn't it
that's it.
involved in a lot of bullshit? You know what I'm saying? You see Lindor's
Yeah,
always smiling.
N-
You see Lindor
drama.
always in the huddle. He's always in the drama. Nemo's a quiet dude. You know what I'm saying?
I like
Nemo's a
those
serious.
guys.
I love those guys. He's a serious
He's
dude. He
like
come.
Jeter in the sense of
Yes,
the way he
yes,
carries himself. He's quiet.
definitely. I agree.
He's like Piazza. Piazza was like that too. Quiet, kept him to himself, performed. Didn't make a lot of noise other than with his bat.
Exactly. I
And
love
that's what
that.
you need.
in a
He's not
captain.
flashy, and
Lead
that's
by
a good.
example.
Yeah, and, Alonso's kind of like that. Alonso's quiet. He has his moments,
He
but
is, but
he's for the
he's a
most.
head case
He's
though. He's the
nerdy.
head
That's why
case.
no one likes him. He's the
No, I don't think
nerdy.
I don't consider him
You
nerdy.
know.
I think he's a head case. I think that he's having conversations while he's in the batter's box, and he's getting too deep in his his head, and I think he just needs to relax and focus on the ball. And I think that McNeil's another player that's very like neurotic when he's at the ball his back. I can't explain it to you. Like he's like you just seen in his eyes, he's like lost or something. It's something crazy about him. But
He's too deep in his head. He needs to just
yeah,
like let the ball come to him. Don't worry about it. He overthinks. You know what I mean?
yeah, that's what it looks
It's like
like.
the person saying, "Oh, it's like if I'm walking a tire, if I'm riding a bike with no hands, I'm not gonna fall. I'm not gonna fall." Or like a unicycle, you tell yourself you're not gonna fall, and what happens? You fall anyway. That's what he's done.
Exactly.
I was like, I'm not gonna miss. I'm not gonna miss. Boom, and he misses.
Yeah, and then he fumbles everything. Yeah, he's a
But
head
you know what's
case. He's
crazy
a head
about
case.
McNeil? You know what drives me about Jeff McNeil? He always comes up in the biggest situations and he always fails, and that's what drives me crazy. And it's just like, how
Yeah,
many more chances are you gonna get
yeah,
to
but
be in big
recent like
situations?
today, look, today he won the game for us. You know what I'm saying? Which is crazy. I don't know. He's a weird case,
He's
but
inconsistent.
yeah, he is. He is. But this is the problem with McNeil too. Like, all right, so you're playing him in every position. Like he's playing left, he's playing center. He can obviously play right, but he's not gonna play right because Soto's there, right? But he's taking time from everybody's, development. That's the younger players, especially. This is how I feel. I feel like, all right, if you play him on second, look, Acuna had to go down. I think that was the biggest mistake the Mets ever made this year, and that's gonna be the one that we're gonna be talking about over the off season because I think they truly messed up his development.
Yeah, I see. Acuna is one of those guys who you have to just lead him up. You leave him up here and let him figure out the problems up here
Yes, sir.
because
He's
he's
electric.
the future. Well,
He
he's the
is
future too.
that too.
You can get away with doing that with Mauricio or Beatty. I'm just those are two guys, or even McNeil. You can kind
I
of do,
mean,
but
they did it to
McNeil, he's been
Beatty
there a long
too.
time.
Yeah, McNeil. That's not the problem with McNeil. McNeil, I think he's done. I think that he's having little moments here, where everything is clicking, but for the most part, I think he's done with the Mets. I don't think. I think he's also, messing with this problem that we have with the development of the younger players. 'Cause he's taking time away from them, and there's no consistency. You have to understand that. Like if you have a Kuna on second base, leave him there. Let him learn that position really well. Make sure that he's running every time he gets the base hit and stretching that play and making it a double. Because he has the legs for it. So you have to develop that. You have to make sure that he understands that he's supposed to be a threat when it comes to situations like that. You want to worry about Acuna if he's on second. You know what I'm saying? And you're down by one, that opposing team is going to say we have to be really careful with this play. We have to think about the person in the batter's box. We also have to think about the guy that's on second that can easily hit the third in a blink of an eye. This is what these are the things that I was hoping Acuna would be able to produce for the Mets this year, but unfortunately,
So that's not the reason why they send him down. They send him down because his bat, and they're relying on his
yeah,
bat
I
as
know, but
well.
you
Because
can't
defensively,
rely on
he's
somebody's back.
fine,
Yeah, but
and
the,
his
the thing
speed.
is, yeah, but explain to me why he's not playing every day. Obviously, his bat is going to decline. You know, he's not a you can't play him on a Monday and then
Sit him
you
on a
know
Wednesday.
you
Yeah.
know and then say I want you to come over here and get two hits for me. It doesn't work that way. There's a lot of stress for him, and they did it to Beatty as well. Saying I don't like Beatty. Number one, I'm not saying he's not a cool dude. It's not about that. I just feel like he doesn't fit. And I like Vientos, but they did it to Vientos too. Look what happened to Vientos. Okay, Vientos was platooning with Beatty at third, and if a lot of time Beatty was there when Vientos was sitting on the bench, that makes no sense to me. If Vientos won the job last year, let him keep his position. You're not doing that to Soto. You're not doing that to, you know, like I don't understand. And all right, if you want McNeil to get at bats, DH him. You don't have a true DH, so DH him. There you go. You're getting at bats. You know what I'm saying? If you want to make him a situational player, you want to say, all right, Tyrone, we gave you a shot today. We gave you two at bats, and you didn't produce a hit. So, all right, for the second half of the game, we're putting McNeil over there. We can do stuff like that off the bench. We don't have to, give him a position where a player could benefit from. I don't understand that, but whatever. Next year things will be better. Now I'm already thinking about next year too because I feel like we're not going to be able to compete doing these silly things.
You know who's been the one guy that keeps coming to mind that has really fallen off the cliff in a fast pace is McGill, man. He was
Oh
came
man,
out guns blazing, man. And I just
yeah,
saw him and Canning, and I like Canning. You know, I've always told you Canning is my favorite pitcher on the Mets, but he's fallen off the cliff. But not as bad as McGill. McGill,
no,
he's not reliable anymore. Like what happened?
that's it. I mean, but he's not. That's it. He's hurt, so
He's
he's a
inconsistent,
lot.
but now he's hurt. But maybe that was a
But
blessing in disguise.
maybe
Who
no,
knows?
but maybe he was hurt. For because remember it was like
Maybe he
four
was hurt the whole
starts in a
time.
row. Yeah, for the because he was electric, and then four starts later, like he fell apart, and it
He
happened
lost
week after
control.
week.
That
He
was the
lost control.
problem.
He did, but
And
then
so
Canning, look what
that's
happened to Canning,
same
Achilles.
thing.
That's it, done for the season.
Oh, he's
You
done for
know,
the season.
yeah, Achilles, bro. He pitched
Wow,
the other day. He moved to the side, to the left of the mound, and he fell apart. He fell, and then apparently he ruptured his Achilles. Done.
man.
Yo, we have seriously, a lot of bad luck. Yo, I don't understand what's going on right now. Where the bullpen was destroyed. I don't know who to blame for that. I mean, we couldn't pitch more than 5 innings. Look, this is the first. It's funny because Peterson has become, the workhorse. He throws a complete game the other day. He's the only guy going over 6 innings, which is crazy, man. Like nobody else is doing it. That's the first. Yo, he did it, and it's now we're trying to figure out what else are we gonna do. Sean has to come back. Blackburn got hurt as well. We have Manaya, Sean coming back. Hopefully, he hasn't pitched this year. Senga's supposed to be coming back all in the next nine
Montas.
days. Montas is gonna pitch tomorrow. Montas came
See,
back.
I was gonna say, you know what surprised me about the bullpen is that they're not tagged. They're not like overworked because the first 2 months the starting rotation has done a good job of as far as pitching deep. So how can the bullpen be taxed? You know what I mean? Like burnt out already.
Yeah, because the starting rotation couldn't pitch more than 6 innings, and we were, pressed, and we had to, figure it out. But this is crazy. I don't understand what happened. Last year we didn't have these problems. Last year our starters were going 7 innings with no problem, and the bullpen wasn't as taxed as it is now. I mean, especially for the second half, we're gonna have to figure that out. This is a serious problem for Stearns right now. He has to figure that bullpen situation out because if we don't have a bullpen, then we're not gonna win anything.
Well,
Because
you're gonna have to
obviously,
trade for
and
bullpen
yeah, we're gonna have to trade for bullpen,
and maybe
and
trade for a starter
unfortunately, I think you're right about that as well.
because now you lost. You say you lost Canning, right? You said
Yeah, he's gone. We
okay.
lost
So you
Canning, we
lost
lost
Canning.
McGill, Blackburn's
McGill's
hurt.
out for a while.
Yeah, but it's supposed to get better in the next after the next two series, I believe. Like they said 9 days. We'll get Senga back, Blackburn, and we'll get Sean on as well. So now that's three plus Peterson, and then we're gonna have to figure out who the fifth is gonna be. Well, no, yeah, well,
Well, either you
Holmes,
call
Holmes.
somebody
I
up.
mean, we still have Holmes there, but we still have
Holmes has
Holmes. We
been
had,
the best pitcher in that rotation so far.
I
He's had
mean, he's
one
been,
really bad mishap if you
he's
think
had,
about it, but other than that, he's
he's.
been okay.
I mean, declining as well, though. Like, it's everything at the same time, which is crazy. That's why we're so hurt, man. June was a horrible month for the Mets,
But
and
it's okay. You rather have this happen now than like September.
yeah, I mean, the
Get
fact
your
that
worries out now.
I don't even understand. We got lucky because Philly got swept, and if it wasn't for that, we would have really been under. But whatever. Listen, let's see what happens, man. The questions everybody's asking: What's wrong with the Mets? What's wrong with the Mets? I don't even know where to start or where to end, bro. That's how bad it is. All right. You know, our ERA right now 6.22, bro. When we had the best ERA in baseball at 2.79. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how you know this shit is crazy. And since June 13th, man, the Twins and the Mets are tied. The worst record in baseball.
That's
Since
crazy
June,
about the Twins because the Twins went on that like 13 game winning streak.
yeah,
Isn't that crazy? The
that
Mets
is
never
crazy.
had a big winning streak, did they?
No,
I
no,
don't
no.
know.
Yeah, we had seven, I believe, six, seven.
Okay, but
You
yeah, the
know,
Twins are on fire. I was like 13, and then now they're just back to being poopy.
yeah. Listen, but I don't want to be in that company. But look, the rivals across town too. They fell apart in, top five worst teams, right? And from June 13th coming over this way, the Twins, the Mets, all right, the White
And the
Sox,
Yankees.
the Guardians, and the Yankees. This is how crazy it is. You know what I'm saying? The Yankees just finished getting swept. 4 game series, not a 3 game series, a 4 game series against Toronto, and they lost
And
the lead
lost
in
to
the
the
division.
Mets.
You know, like it's pretty crazy. They lost what, five in a row? Yeah,
Yeah, but you know why they're losing? It's not because they're pitching. It's not because their offense. It's their fielding. They are horrible defensively. You saw plays where Volpe in the Toronto game just lackadaisical throw to the guy at third, and the guy couldn't get to it. The guy, it's just poor defense, and they've had those. See, no one has noticed this because they've had those issues for a long time. But you won't believe it because hey, they went to the World Series. What are you talking about? No,
yeah,
they've
but
had
this
those
is crazy.
issues, and it showed in the World Series, and it's happening now. That's why they're losing. Besides Max Fried and all these other guys, the pitching is okay, but you give up a couple. If you have like more than four errors in a game, you're gonna lose the game. I don't care how good you are.
Yeah, that's
You
crazy. I
know,
mean, like, this is the
it's
one
just
thing that I
true.
can't accept. You know, like those guys get paid so much money. And listen, I understand, man. I played, and I'm not a professional, and it's not easy. You know, when you see something coming hot and you gotta snag that ball, it's very hard. You have to be so fast, and the ball is coming at 100 miles an hour. So like, it's serious. And hitting is hard. I mean, the game is it's one of the most difficult sports to play. Listen, I understand, but you get paid a lot of money, and all you do is play baseball. Like you have to focus, bro. Can't be making errors like that because that really costs. Imagine in the World Series, look what happened. That's why they didn't. I mean, whatever. They weren't gonna beat the Dodgers anyway. But listen, I don't know. I think that we're not gonna be able to compete like this. That's all I can tell you. And I feel like the season is over as we speak.
Well, the problem is all right. Yes, Soto's starting to get hot,
Yeah, when the team
but
sucks.
Lindor is still not really getting
You
hot.
know,
He's
you know,
like
you know.
he's warming up. Like when when you're like boiling water for tea. Like the beginning stages. It's you touch it, you can still stick your finger in there.
Finger in
It's
it.
not gonna
Yeah.
burn you.
No, no, but
That's
yeah,
where
I
he's
agree.
at right now.
No, but
You want him
it's
to be
it's
sizzling
it's
hot.
no, but it's the opposite of what happened last year. Last year he came in late, right? Didn't earn himself a slot in the All Star game, right? Because or
That kind
some
of motivated him to do better.
exactly. So now this year he starts off hot, and now he's back to like what he does to us in the beginning of the season every year. Doesn't make any
He
sense.
always
Like he
starts out cold. It's
cold,
just the way he
but
is.
something that I read today, which I completely forgot about. Remember, he broke his toe not too long ago, and after that, that's when we had the serious decline. So
Recently, he broke his toe.
yeah, he broke his toe on June 4th, bro. He got hit by a pitch on
That
June
doesn't
fourth.
make a
He broke his
difference.
toe. I mean, it
That's
does
your
because
balancing foot.
exactly, exactly. That makes a huge difference. So now
And if
he's
that's a
struggling with
foot he
offense.
steps with,
Forget
how like
about it.
if you're a lefty or righty. What is he, a lefty or righty?
It's a switch.
Okay, so it depends on whatever side. I'm sure because he's a switch hitter, it's a plus because now he can lead off with the foot that's not injured. So
Yeah,
if it's
depending
his
on the
left
pitching that day.
toe, yeah. But even if it depends on who the pitcher is, if a lefty's coming in and his left foot is hurt, he might just still swing righty just because
Nah,
to
he won't
reduce the
do it. He
pain.
won't do it. I've never seen him
No.
do it. No, he won't do
Oh
it.
wow.
I know it's
I don't
crazy.
know, man. That's hard to believe. I don't know. You don't realize it's hard to believe a toe, but if it's
Yeah, of course, it makes
but if it's
huge
his big
sense.
toe, it makes a big difference because you're
Yeah,
not allowed to, you know,
to put a
you
lot of
know,
pressure on it.
yeah,
So
because
he's
a lot of your weight, when you hit the ball, a lot of your momentum comes from your hips and your weight. And what do you
exactly
use that? It's your feet used to plant,
plant.
so you can use your force
Yes,
to twist yourself. You know,
exactly.
it's kind of hard to
So,
explain when but you know
no,
what I
no,
mean.
no. Yeah, of course.
Our
I'm a
fans
golfer.
would
It's the same
understand what we're
thing.
talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Our fans understand. I understand. Any golfer understands.
That's
Same
why it
type
makes
of
Judge
mechanics.
amazingly great because he has such great and same thing with Soto and Alonso. Those three guys they have bigger body, they have more upper body strength, so they don't have to
Yes,
use their feet as much. So to drive the ball, where someone like
exactly.
Lindor, he's not a big dude. He's what 5'9",
Yeah,
5'10", maybe six
it goes
foot.
it goes back to the same thing we were
So
talking
he
about Griffey.
needs to use his
Exactly.
Ken Griffey, same thing.
Same
Same thing with
thing.
Cal Ripken. Cal Ripken
Exactly.
wasn't a big dude. Back in
Exactly.
the '80s and '90s, back in the '90s and the 2000s, they were, Barry Bonds was one of the rare few. David Ortiz one of the rare few where
Yeah.
they were just big
No, but they were
upper
fat. They were
bodies.
fat. They were fat though. Ortiz
Yeah,
is
but they had
a big dude.
yeah. Same thing with Sosa McGuire. They had upper body strength.
Yes, I agree.
so they didn't have to use his legs. That's why they teach these kids, these hitters nowadays, these kids, use your legs, use your legs, use your legs. It's just like EMS. We always tell people when you lift somebody, use your legs because you don't want to compromise something else. Same thing with baseball. You have to use your legs if you're not a big upper body strength guy because that's how you drive. That's how you drive the ball. It's that
100%.
twisted motion.
I
So
agree.
I don't know Lindor. I'm not gonna give up on Lindor. He's gonna wake up.
I
Now
hope so.
the question, the problem is, it's all right. It's starting to be hot in New York, and it was like 90 plus today.
Yes,
So
sir.
you can't use
Super
the
hot.
excuse. Well, it's not warm yet. It's not like Atlanta where it's already 90 in April. Or May
Yeah.
for that
But
matter.
listen, I don't
That
know.
doesn't
Listen,
happen.
I don't know. They're doing so much right now to try to figure out what's wrong. They're juggling the lineup. He was removed from his first, the first
From
slot in the
leadoff,
lineup
yeah,
and from leadoff.
leadoff,
He went 191 consecutive starts at the top of the lineup, and recently, and he started hitting. Whatever.
yeah,
And you know what? There's the one thing I do love about the guy. He said, "Listen, I'll do whatever it takes to win."
yeah.
He's
He's a
not.
team
He's not.
player.
He's a team player. He's not gonna be a Devers. You know what I'm saying? But man, listen. I hope it works out for them. I hope they can figure it out. They're still really close to the division, lead. They're right there. We just lost
Well,
it. We're
Philly
gonna.
lost today, so that's
Yes, they
good. So
did.
you're now half a game behind.
Yeah. Right now we're half a game out. Yeah, that's it.
So
We
if
won
if
three in a
you can
row.
sweep the Yankees and
Oh
Philly
man.
loses, you're back in
Yeah.
the lead.
Back in the lead. I mean, but we're gonna have to fight Philly the whole way through. Listen, I'm glad that the National League East is actually showing up and saying, you know what? Fuck the Yankees,
We're not gonna
because
make it easy. Yeah,
exactly, fuck the Yankees. But the Yankees have had it rough. Listen, the same thing that happened to us is happening over there.
but
So
them, the offense is not producing.
yeah,
What's crazy part is the only guy that's producing is the guy they've been writing off all season is Giancarlo Stanton. He's been doing great for them. He's the only guy that's been producing, and he's known to not produce in the regular
yeah,
season.
the
He
whole
only shows
season
up in the regular season, in the
in the
postseason.
postseason. That's true. It's crazy. You see, but the same thing. It's like there's something going on all over baseball. The Javi Baez, the Giancarlo Stanton, the Jacob DeGrom. Saying, look what's happening. All these guys that were washed
Gleyber
up.
Torres in
You know,
Detroit.
you know?
Look at him. He's gonna be an all star.
Yeah, look at
He's
that.
gonna get the
Shit's great.
first. He's
What?
gonna get the first digs, or he's gonna. I think he might be a starter for Detroit. It's crazy. He was
That's
washed up
crazy.
in New York.
Yo, how crazy is this? A lot of guys have like just you know turned a new leaf. It's kind of crazy. They decided to earn their money and become superstars overnight. It's just crazy. I don't know. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's super weird. So
But
the
for the
Mets,
Mets,
man. Yeah, I don't know.
it's just the other thing that's frustrating for the Mets because the thing is, I'll be honest with you, the offense is gonna wake up eventually. You know what I mean? The problem
I
is
don't know.
do you know if the pitching? My concern with pitching is can the pitching get back to what they were in April, or has the league finally figured them out? You know what I mean? That's the question. Because if
I don't know.
Canning
There was a
and
decline.
McGill comes back to where they were, I have to say for the most part, Holmes is the only one that's been leveled. Like he stayed at the same pace. Yeah, he's had like good, but he hasn't had significant drop off in the starts. Where McGill and Canning have, but now we
Yeah, but
find out
Canning.
maybe
That's
the
it.
inning is what caused, the injury is what caused Canning to have a massive decline.
I don't know.
And
The injuries to
Peterson has
yeah.
been inconsistent. Too.
No, no, I think he's been saving us lately. He's been
Oh, he's been saving your
complete
bacon.
game, everything. He's been doing everything right now. He's our savior right now. Because if it wasn't for him, at least we can count on him every 5 days and say, all right, Peterson's pitching today. He's gonna give us his all. We have
Yeah.
that from him. We have that from he's at a level in his career where it's like, all right, he understands what the job is and he's actually pulling it off.
Who's a concern for me in the Mets bullpen? You might disagree, but I noticed in the Atlanta series, it was Brazelbon, the eighth inning guy.
Oh yeah, it
He's
exploded,
woo,
exploded. No,
he's
exploded. That's why.
shaky like a
Over.
leaf.
Nah, but listen, you left him in the oven too long. You know what I'm saying? You
Yeah,
can't.
that's
Yo,
true.
listen. Every time I looked over, Brazo Bonner's pitching. Every time, what the fuck, Brazo Bonner's pitching. And then, of course, man, they got to him.
But
They
see
got to
that Atlanta
Stanek
game?
too.
Yep, the game I'm thinking of, it was 2 weeks ago in Atlanta. It was the first game of the series. It was the eighth inning. The Mets were up 4-1. They should have pulled him after he allowed that first base hit or whatever it was. And I don't remember the sequence of the inning, but they didn't pull him and they left him in, like you said, way too long. And then Atlanta exploited him, and ever since it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah. I
So
mean,
I don't know what you're
listen,
gonna do because at the same time you don't want to. What are you gonna have? Diaz come in for a 6 inning out, or five outs.
5 hours
That's too
and shit.
much.
That's a lot,
Actually,
bro.
yeah, for because it
It's a
was the eighth
lot. It's
inning
a
when that
lot.
happened. You know,
I don't. I don't. I don't get it. I don't. I really don't understand. Listen, I'm glad that the Yankees are having problems too because nobody's really talking. Everybody's sad around town. You know what I'm saying? So it's a very. It's like
I
it's not.
know
Even-
it's
It's
very
like
doom
it's
and
very
gloom.
gloomy. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. The city's pretty crazy. Nobody's yelling at anybody. Nobody's saying,
My
"Yeah,
team's
your
better
team
than
ain't shit."
yours.
Yeah, there's none of that shit
Yeah,
going on right now in the city. It's very weird. It's like the season is over already. So you know what I'm
but
saying.
see, you know what I was thinking of too. Between the two teams, the team that can least afford to slip up are the Mets because the Yankees can get away with it because they're such in a horrible division. The whole American League is trash. Let's be honest
Nah,
with you.
not at this point. Not as we speak. Not
There's
as
like
we
one
speak.
or two good teams. Detroit's the
No, they
best team in
talking.
that division
Oh, you talking
in
about? I
the
thought you meant the
American League.
national. No, I thought you meant the American League
No,
East. Oh, okay.
no. In general, the only team that's gonna give them challenge, in my opinion, is Detroit. Consistent, and that yeah, Toronto's getting hot. Blah 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 blah. But for the most part,
Listen, don't
the
hate.
Mets
Don't hate
cannot
on the.
afford to slip. No, I'm just being honest with you. Mets are the team that cannot afford to slip. The Yankees can get away with it, in my
Nah,
opinion.
I feel like the Yankees. I think it's the opposite. You know why I say that? Because all right, you have Toronto, right? That's right there. They're getting hot, and then you have these guys. They're getting hot as well, right? So and Boston, forget about Boston. Boston is done. But in this division that the Yankees on it, it's not easy for them anymore, right? Because you got Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is getting hot as well, so it's going to be harder for them. There's three teams competing for that slot, and in my division, the Phillies are the only team giving us problems. You know what I'm saying? Other than that, I think that that's a super weak division. Look at it. You got Miami at 10.5. They're not going to win anywhere. Atlanta at 11 and Washington at 14. It's a two-man race. The National League East has two men running for the gold, right? And then in the American League East, you have three guys. So I think it's harder for the Yankees. If the Yankees don't make the playoffs, I'm gonna fucking love it. Even if the Mets don't make it.
Dude, the Yankee fans, oh my gosh. Because I listen to a lot of the sports talk, and, it's funny to listen to Yankee fan. One thing I noticed about the Mets compared to Yankees fans is Mets fans don't complain until they really have a good reason to complain. Yankee
Yeah.
fans, they complain about the color of the sky the night they play. They complain about every little thing, and then they want to fire the coach, fire the coach, fire the coach, blah 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 blah. But it's funny because they always they call and they're like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have no clue how good you have it. Every year you're in the playoffs. Every year your team is above 500. Y'all complain about the dumbest thing. That's why I hate Yankee
I mean,
fans.
that's what they do, man. That's what they do. But it's
Yeah.
okay. Let's talk about you guys, right? So for some reason, you guys played really well in June.
They had a good June. They went 16 and
Yeah,
11
yeah, I love it. But since the 12th, right, of June coming over this way, you guys are 10-10. I mean, you won tonight, so 11-10. 11 and
since
10. One
when?
game up since the 12th of June.
June 12th. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're about 500.
Mm-hmm. One above
That
500. One above 500. You know what I'm saying? Listen, you
I
guys,
don't know.
Texas is a tough out now, The
The
Grom,
Grom is amazing.
I know
Evaldi.
what crazy. Yo, five starts, five
The
straight
Grom's
is,
gonna win the Cy Young.
man, listen, if that
He's
happens,
9 and
listen,
2.
yo, last five, starts, he won them shit. It's pretty crazy. He's doing his thing, man. I'm proud of him. I'm happy for him. But you know what? We made the right decision when we let him go. It was the right decision because look how long it took him to actually be able to perform for Texas. This happened. We got rid of this guy a while ago. This is the first year
Yeah.
that he's actually been productive since then.
Well, it's been what 3.5 years, 2 years since you traded him.
Something crazy like that. I can't remember.
But his first year with the Texas, he didn't play because he had
I
a
know. Yeah, he was still
burn
hurt.
out his elbow or something like that.
Something crazy. He didn't play. He didn't play. Little spotty starts here and there. But
Yeah.
whatever. Hats off to him. Definitely. He never quit on himself. He figured it out.
So
Now,
looking at Baltimore,
yeah, let's look at
what were you
Baltimore.
gonna say?
No, I was gonna say that Baltimore did well, and then you start the month off in a bad way. But you won today. listen, you beat the Braves, which is funny because we have to talk about this because, all right, you understand this guy, this guy can't make up his mind. He has two baseball teams, all right? We all get on him about it.
That's
Yeah, we
right.
understand he moved to Atlanta, but that doesn't mean shit, bro. I don't care if I fucking move to the moon and the fucking moon has five teams. I'm fucking going, I'm still a Met fan, all right? That's it. Yeah, but well, I'll go to a couple of games. Yeah, you didn't have to become a Atlanta fan. You can go to a couple of games and watch baseball. Be a baseball fan. But you left New York, Jersey, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And your dad is a Yankee fan and you became a Baltimore Orioles fan. Then you go to Atlanta and all of a sudden you're an Atlanta fan as well. You know what I'm saying? So now you have two baseball teams. They both played each other today on July 4th. And where did you go? To fucking work.
That's right.
Listen. That's right. Now I don't want to hear that because you were supposed to be at that game and say, "Wow, I'm actually watching my two favorite baseball teams," which is, I'm not gonna. It's silly to me. I think it's crazy because you can't have two baseball teams. I'm sorry, bro. That's why when I see a guy wearing a stupid Mets/Yankees hat, it pisses me off. You can't be a fan of both, bro. What are you doing, bro? Like, no.
Yeah. No,
You went
but
to
yeah,
work.
so
Case closed.
during this month of June, they had a really good start because they went to Seattle, swept Seattle. That was a good start. Then they lost 2 out of 3 to Atlanta, to the Athletics. Then they lost 2 out of 3 to Detroit, which is expected because Detroit's bad. Then they were looking good. They swept the Angels, and they've been had a really good season so far against Tampa Bay. They played Tampa Bay pretty well. They split this. They won the series in Tampa, split the series back in Baltimore, and then the stupid Yankees. They should have won the series against the Yankees, but the last game of the series, which was Father's Day, Dean Kramer had an amazing game, 2-1, and then they took him out, and the bullpen pooped the bed, and then just fielding errors cost them the game. And you know me, if there's any team I hate losing to, it's the Yankees. It's just like the way you hate losing to the
Of
Braves.
course.
They
Well,
drive
no,
me nuts because they're the evil empire, the Yankees in the American League East. They're always good. They always poop on us. We're like a doormat to them. We can never beat them. It drives me crazy. And any chance you have to take 2 out of 3 from them, trust me, that's to me that's more important than winning the World Series. When your
well,
team
what?
that's
That's
not in
exactly what I just
contention
said.
for the World Series.
Well, I said that. I said, listen, if the Mets don't make the playoffs and Toronto or Tampa Bay happen to take the division, listen, I'm gonna be very happy about that. All right, let's move on. Let's breathe a little. We're having horrible seasons. This is not what we expected. If anything, man, I was praying for a Baltimore Orioles, New York Mets World Series, and that was possible at the beginning of the season. I mean, you didn't have any pitching, but I didn't think you guys were gonna play that bad. But we're gonna move on. We're gonna talk about the All Star game because it's coming up. The silly little All Star game that means nothing to no one. That costs thousands and thousands of dollars for the package to go there. It's gonna be played at Truist Park this year, which you're not gonna be going to because that would be
It's freaking
insane.
like $900 to go.
Yeah,
No,
exactly. Why would
thank
you
you.
pay that exactly? When you can watch all this shit on TV. But listen,
But yeah,
like listen, you can watch it on TV. It's okay though. Derby, all that. You can watch all that. It's okay. It's not something that I look forward to. I don't really care for the All Star game. You know what's funny? Back in the day, not too long ago, when they decided to make it, home field advantage for the World Series, I was like, all right, that I can work with. Because now they're playing for something. It's a little different. I know a lot of people frowned on it, but I kind of liked it. I was like, okay, now this game means something. But
I
let's
think they
talk
still
about
do that. They
no,
still
they're
do
not. They
that.
don't. They don't. Nah, they don't do that anymore. They
Really?
don't. I don't
Well,
think they do that anymore.
the reason why I like it because it's the only All Star game where you actually play the game. It's not like basketball. You just chuck up 7,000 threes,
I mean,
or
it's different. It's a different
hockey where you
sport.
just lollygag, or football, the Pro Bowl, which is a joke. I don't like All Star games. They're stupid.
There
But
they
the
are.
baseball is the only closest sport they actually have to play a game. You can't just lollygag. We gonna
You can't
lob. You
lob
ever
a
play
pitch.
softball? Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a
You can't
softball
just.
game.
Yeah, you can't just slowly throw the ball to first base. Like no, it's gonna
If
look
anything,
ugly.
it's if
You know.
anything, it's harder because you got top tier rotational guys that are coming in
And these
every
guys
two
are
innings.
trying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean they're coming in every two innings. So you're talking about fresh arms every 2 seconds. They throw in gas, and you're like, what the
Yeah.
fuck? I can't hit this shit. That's why I say that that old
It's the
school way.
best
That
All Star
it's the
game.
But check this out. You got Will Smith, right? Dodgers catching. That's the guy that's gonna start the game. You got Mr. Freddie Freeman, another Dodger, which listen, he deserves it. He's hitting like a maniac. He's hitting for average. He's crazy. You got Cattell Marte, Arizona Diamondbacks, right? This is off the top of my head. I know these guys. So he's playing second base. Then you have Francisco Lindor. He finally makes the cut, right? He's playing shortstop, and this is a weird one here. You got Manny Machado playing third base, another guy that's kind of like decided to play baseball now. I don't know. This is crazy. And Shohei Otani's gonna be DHing, which is fucking retarded. And then Acuna is gonna be playing outfield.
Yeah,
PCA is gonna be playing center, and
center
Kyle Tucker's gonna be playing what left, right?
for the White Sox, Cubs. Yeah,
Yeah, right. And boom, and then we got Cal Raleigh, obviously, doing everything right.
he's the catcher. Yeah,
He's the catcher. Vladimir, who, after he got paid, decided that he wanted to still and continue to play baseball. Unlike Soto and them,
is he
you
gonna be a
know.
DH or this
Nah,
first
he's
baseman?
first baseman. Here's an
Okay,
interesting one. Gleyber Torres is playing second base. How crazy
who
is
would have
that?
thought? Yankee fans like what?
Exactly. Not exactly. Jacob Wilson. I'm sorry, brother. I don't know who
He's
you
what
are.
team is he on?
Exactly. I just said that. I have no idea. Whatever. We'll look him up and we'll discuss Jacob next week. See what he's doing to deserve that slot. Jose Ramirez is playing third base. We know what he does all the time.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's great. And then DHing is gonna be Ryan O'Hearn,
The only Oriole.
right? Which is crazy. And now here comes the funny shit again. Javi Baez made the cut. All right.
Oh, Mets fans. Oh
Oh
man,
man,
the way
can you
the
imagine?
Yankee fans hate Gleyber Torres is the way the Mets fans hate Javier Baez.
Javi Baez,
Because
exactly.
he started that thumbs down nonsense with the
Yeah.
fans and all
No,
that.
no, but just imagine that he would have came to the Mets and he would have been hitting the way he's hitting now, and we would have had him, Lindor, Soto, Alonso. Wow,
Yeah,
Oh, time out. Let's make it even better. Imagine if we would have never got rid of P. Crow Armstrong and had him at center as well.
and you never would
Wow,
have had Javier Baez.
that is true. So it's one or the other. How crazy is that, right?
But
No, no, but
remember,
we could have got him a
no,
different way. We could have got him a different way. We don't have to.
remember they got him because they were in the playoff contention and they needed
Yes,
him. That's why they
yes,
got it.
yes, yes. They were trying to build a spark. I
That
understand
was
that hot
Buck
shit.
Showalter's first year in New York.
Yeah,
Remember?
they were trying to build a spark. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, listen, we could have got Javi Baez a different way, kept Crow Armstrong. We didn't know these guys were gonna end up doing that shit this year. You know what I'm saying? But imagine if we would have had those two pieces on top of, especially with what they're doing now. That's what I meant. Not just to have them, but to have that, offense on our team right now with what's happening. Who knows? But yeah, this is gonna be an interesting All Star game for those that like it. Enjoy. I'll watch the
I'll,
Derby. I'll watch the
yeah.
Derby, and then I'll call it quits there. I think
Oh, I'll be
you
watching
know
the game. I don't care. I like
I'm
it.
not
All
gonna,
Star game.
I'm not gonna watch it. And then okay, so I don't know if we discussed it. No, we didn't discuss it. I was talking to my dad. So the Pirates, for some reason, they won six in a row. They swept the Mets. Yeah, we discussed it, but the thing about these, and they swept the Cards. They swept the Cards so bad,
That
bro.
was the amazing part.
Yeah, that was the amazing
But
part.
yeah,
They they shut them out 3 days in a row. The Cards never scored.
not even one run in a 3 game series.
Exactly. That was
Oh,
the
I think maybe they just swipe. Didn't
no
score in the
no
last
no. It
game or
wasn't
something.
just a no. It wasn't just a regular sweep. These guys didn't score at all. And the last time that happened was October 2nd to the 3rd in 1976, bro. I wasn't even. No, I was born. I was born. I was 3 months old. They did it to the same team, the Cardinals. The Pirates smoked them for 3 games straight, and they did not score.
And that's
Re
crazy because Pirates can't score for to. If you look at their run differential, it's
Oh
here. I'll
my
tell you right
god.
now, they can't
Yo,
score to save a
I
bag.
know. Not about yo, come on, man. You know how many runs they scored against the Mets? They scored over 30 runs against the Mets,
It
bro.
was 30-4, something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. 30 to 4.
Actually, Pittsburgh's run differential is only negative 35. I thought it'd be worse, but
Okay, I
still,
thought it would be worse too.
they've only scored 310 runs, so
Yeah,
not
but well,
too.
they
But
scored the
still,
majority of those against the Mets.
probably yeah,
Yeah, that's just crazy. But we're getting to the point of this is funny how this is set up because you pick these guys every week. I don't pick them. So
yeah.
for the head of the week, you picked Soto, right? Soto went 2 for 4 on the 25th
Versus
against
Atlanta,
Atlanta and two
that was
RBIs,
in New
two
York,
runs.
right?
That was in Atlanta.
Yeah,
Yeah, I believe so.
yeah, it was in New
Yeah,
York. Yeah,
yeah.
7-3. Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
because that was the split the
yeah,
series.
hmm
Yeah, he had a
he
yeah.
got hot for June. He got hot. He did crazy shit for June. 10 home
Didn't he
runs.
have another two hit home run game recently, like a couple days
Yeah,
ago?
yeah, he did. And you know what's funny that you got for the pitcher of the week, you have the Grom. You know what I'm saying?
Your
He went
boy
7 innings, one hit, bro,
against
seven
guess who?
strikeouts against your boys on the same
Stupid
day. On the
Orioles.
same day.
I was so mad. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. He would have had a perfect game, but then he gave up that hit. He would have had a no hitter. I mean, not a perfect game. He would have had a no hitter, but he gave up
And
the
going
one
into
hit
the
and they pulled
seventh,
him
yeah,
out.
but pulled him out. But check this out, that was a smart move because you know what? Look, he continues to rock on.
Yeah, and then
Now
we played him again the next week, this past week in Texas, and he gave up 2 runs and had a monster game. But whatever.
he's just doing it, bro. Now, the question of the week. So the all-time Subway Series record, I'm not gonna tell you. I want you to tell me what you think it is. I'll tell you how many games they played. They played 122 games prior to today's game. So 122 games, and I want you to tell me what the splits are. So who won more games than than the other?
Well, just going, I'm just playing probably the Yankees in the early, just going based off the early 2000s. The Yankees were That's
Mm,
when the Yankees were prime dominant.
yes, sir.
So between, I would say in that series, I'd say the Yankees probably have about between 70 wins and 80 wins. I'd
Oh
say about
shit.
70
Okay, damn, bro. 71 and
out of the
51.
122.
Out of the 122, yeah. Out of the 122, 71 wins for the Yankees, 51 for
Really?
the Mets.
Bro,
Yeah,
I
that was
totally
good.
guessed off the top of my head.
Yeah, that
That's
was great.
impressive.
That's
I was just
impressive.
going based off of the early 2000s
No, no, that was a
because
good
the late
guess.
2000s, the past the 2010s, five the last 5 years, the Mets have
We've
been
been
pretty
better.
even with them.
Yeah, it's
You know what
true.
I mean?
Yeah, the Subway
When they
Series
play the
started
series.
in '97. So you were right because you said early 2000s.
'97.
That's when it first
Wow.
started. Yeah, it's been a while, bro. A lot of games.
Yeah, but I was
It's
what
a lot
ten
and it's
years old.
funny. Yeah, think about it. It's a lot of games because last year they only played 4 games. So when you tally it up, 123 games with today's game, 123 matches, which is crazy, right? And the first game ever, we won the game 6-0, right?
You know what I
Dave
think they
Malicki
should do
was
with the
pitching.
schedule? You know what I
What's
think they
that?
need to do with the schedule? All right, you want to do this interleague series nonsense? I think rivalry teams should have to play each other at least 10 times, or 8 times at
Damn,
best.
that's a lot. That's a lot.
No, but that
Nah, I
way,
like this new way.
no, no, because that way you say, well, why am I going to Pittsburgh and then go back home and then go play somebody else? And I've only seen Pittsburgh one time the whole time. It's stupid. You play the teams because that's more relevant. If I got to see the Yankees and Mets 8 times in a year, that's gonna be more exciting. That's more relevant than
No, no, but I like this
playing.
format. I like when
I
they
don't
play
know,
everybody.
playing
I like this new
Colorado.
format. Nah, I like this new format because you get to see every single team. So that means that you know what that means, which is pretty awesome. That the World Series, right? Those teams get to see each other prior to getting there. Because back in the day, think about it. A lot of teams never really saw each other, right? Because you were
Yeah,
playing. There was no interleague, right? And you were
Yankees and
playing
Marlins, they didn't play each other.
exactly. You know what I'm saying? But every year there's an actual matchup throughout the season where both contenders from the American League and the National League actually bump into each other. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, that's true.
And you never
That
know
makes
when it,
sense.
and you never know when it's gonna happen. I mean, we know who the super teams are, but you know, we don't really know who's gonna make it to the World Series because we've seen wild card teams just come out of nowhere and destroy in the playoffs.
Look at
Especially
Texas and Arizona a couple years ago.
exactly. Listen, the reason why is because they have the momentum. You know what I'm saying? Because they have to play more games in the playoffs to get to the World Series. So they build some sort of momentum and they just keep moving. and they just start plowing through teams that were resting because the best team gets the rest, and I think that's a bad move on. So, but you're not gonna play it strategically either. You're not gonna say, "Well, let me tank a couple of games so I can end up becoming a wild card." You're not gonna do that either. It's a blessing and a curse all in one.
Yeah,
But
one thing I like about baseball this year is there's no clear favorite because every team has struggled. The Mets have struggled at one point.
the
Detroit
Dodgers,
has lost a
everybody,
couple. The Padres have fallen off the ground a little,
yes,
fallen off the,
a little. I
uh,
think let's go
they've
back
fallen
to
off a
a
lot.
lot, a lot. You know what
The
happened to
Giants
them?
have been struggling. And it's just there's no dominant like even there's no like oh my gosh for sure like how like in the NBA for sure it's probably gonna be you know Golden State most likely in the finals or like in hockey for sure it's gonna be Florida or because they're just so good. You don't have that in baseball this year.
Yeah. You know what's funny? Remember, like all season recently, like all season, the whole way, season two of this podcast, we've been talking about how the wild cards were gonna definitely come out of the West. If you look at the West now, I don't think so. I don't know what's gonna happen, but it looks like Milwaukee is gonna be the team that's gonna trump all that. Jay, you shake your head, but listen,
Milwaukee reminds me of Toronto.
no, listen, they were there last year. They're consistent. No, Milwaukee. You know what? Milwaukee reminds me of the mid 2000s, like 2015, in that area somewhere where the no. Let's go back a little further back. Let's go back to like the early 2000s, right? When the Mets were okay, they were decent, right? And you know who was always really good in those days, and they always made the playoffs without any problems? The St. Louis Cardinals.
I
This
was
is
just
what
gonna
the
say the Cardinals.
Yes, for some reason, those guys never failed. You could put your money on it; they would always make the playoffs, and they would give you really good baseball. They had really good, decent teams back then. These are the teams that did well back then, and the Milwaukee Brewers remind me of that team. It's funny because they were there last year. Look what happened to them last year. The Mets, Pete Alonso took them out of the playoffs. That's the shit. They're gonna come back. They have a really good team. David Stearns kind of like set them up to succeed. Now he's gonna try to do this with this team, but let's see how long it's gonna take to actually make it happen. Look what happened last year when he was scratching his head and he said, "Damn, man, I thought I put a good team together and." I don't understand why this is happening. And then they clicked and they actually made it all the way to the postseason. But I don't think so. I don't think this is gonna happen this year. He's gonna have to keep tweaking it because it's not working. But we
Every time you talk about the Mets and Cardinals, I remember that game when they went 25 innings. Remember that game, Mets and
20.
Cardinals?
I don't
It
remember
went
that one.
20.
20.
Yeah, it was the 120. It was like in the early. I forgot what happened, but yeah, they played 20. I remember that game. I was like a kid. It went
That's
25
crazy.
innings. Yeah, the game didn't end until like 3 in the morning, dude. It took
Oh
7 hours and 4 minutes.
that's crazy. Can you
Eh,
imagine the exhaustion at that point? Playing baseball for 7 hours.
And that's probably why they got the Manfred man. But oh my
That's
gosh.
that's
That's like a
crazy.
10. I'm like, yeah, but you don't remember that game? I'm trying to remember
No.
when that
And this
was.
has to be back in the day when there was no man on second. You know what I'm saying? Can you imagine how hard it was to win a game?
Oh, it was in.
Extra innings?
Maybe I'm thinking of another game. I feel like there's two Mets Cardinals games where they played long. Anyway, this one was supposed to be in September 11th, 1974. Cardinals 4, Mets 3, 25 innings.
Holy shit. That's
Yeah, I
crazy.
feel like there was another one.
I
Where
remember,
did it?
wasn't there? Oh, didn't the Yankees and Boston go like 19 innings or some shit like that one time? Or something crazy. 19 innings or
Yeah.
something. I mean, we'll look that up. That's a good subject to talk about next week as well. We'll talk about that. We're gonna look up Mr. What was his name? Wilson, whatever the hell his name was.
Oh yeah.
We're gonna look him up too. We have it here, we Mr. Jacob Wilson. We're gonna look him up, see what the hell he's all about. We're gonna talk about the fact that this season is over for us, and we're gonna have to pick winners, and we're gonna have to pick a team to ride coattails. I'm a ride with. If the Mets can't do it, I don't know. I'm gonna go with the Dodgers. I'm gonna go with the underdog. I'm gonna see who I like. There's a lot of good teams. Maybe Chicago. I like Chicago. I like Chicago. I don't know.
Oh, the
If the
Cubs.
yeah, if the Mets can't do it, I'll pick maybe Chicago. I don't know. I'm gonna have to pick a team that I want to take. I don't want the Dodgers to win. That's all that matters to me. I don't want the Yankees to win, and I don't want the Dodgers to win. Anything after that, I'm
I'd
fine
pick
with.
if it's not gonna be Atlanta, I like San Diego.
San Diego, yeah, I like San Diego, but I don't think San Diego's gonna be able to pull it off. San
You know what's
Diego
disappointing
got
about yeah. San Diego
the
has what? It's just a
he got.
high hurdle to cross.
I mean, because they have the Dodgers in the situation. That's what it is. It's like I'm a Raider fan, right? But then you get the Chiefs, right? We can never get over the Chiefs, bro. Like it's
I
impossible, bro.
know.
It's like the
Yeah.
Patriots. If you're a Jeff fan, bro, when Brady was, throwing the ball, you had no chance, bro. It's the same thing, think about it. It's just bad. Atlanta smoked us for 15 years in a row, bro. They took the division 15 years in a row. All right. When they get back to that form, forget about it. But we don't want the Dodgers to win. We don't want that.
Yeah.
Listen,
No, I forgot. I lost my train of thought. What I was gonna say. But anyway, I could have sworn there was another game in the early to mid 2000s where the Mets and Cardinals played a long game before after that one we just stated. But anyway, that's made me think of the Mets and Cardinals because Cardinals were in the Mets division at one time, right? Weren't they in
I
the same
believe so. Yeah,
division?
it was like a different setup. We'll bring
Yeah.
that up as well. We'll bring that up as well.
Mhm.
We'll look at the old way things were done. The divisions were set up a lot differently back then, and we're gonna talk about that as well. So now we got three different subjects for you to look forward to. Hope you
Yeah.
enjoyed the episode, and have a good night.
Peace.
Peace,
Later,
brother.
guys.
Peace.